Don't lose your way. Your mind, we have to be as one.
Hey, what's going on YouTube? Or Storm here coming at you guys with the new ban list. It's actually been updated finally after, almost 6 months. We're finally getting a new ban list. So today I have my buddy Sean who's going to help me out talking about the ban list. Say hello to everybody.
Hello.
So anyway, so this is, considering how long we've waited, there aren't a ton of changes on this list. I was at work when the list came up, but we're going to go ahead and go over it. There's not a ton of changes, but I think there's some pretty relevant ones that are going to kind of fix the format and help some of the problems. It doesn't totally balance out the format. There's still a lot of problems, but I think this helps to an extent. So the first card we can see right here is the Magic Spectre Unicorn Kirin. I'm not surprised. I don't know about you, Sean, but I'm not surprised at all. Like, this card cannot stay while links are a thing. This card cannot this and links cannot exist. They, like, the way Kirin shuts down link summoning, I feel like it was going to get banned. What do you think, Sean?
I think that everyone, especially people that played decks that used it, expected this. And it was pretty much, I think a lot of players are like, about time.
Yeah, it's the same thing with another card we're going to get to later on. Definitely, Kirin was something, like, I played Kirin, and, like, I love the card. I like what the card does. But I admit, like, I remember a game at Locals he was playing Lunalights, or Moonlights, whatever you want to call it, and, like, game 1, I used Ignister to break his turn 1 Leo Dancer. Then game 2, I just summoned Kirin, and he couldn't out it. Like, decks lose to Kirin. Some decks just cannot play with Kirin on the field, so I feel like, as much as I feel like I like the card, I know why it's banned. And other thing, like I said, links in this can't exist. So the Tyrant Neptune is the next card banned. Preemptive hit. So I don't know if you've heard about this interaction, Sean, but the way it works is Tyrant Neptune. There's a combo with Zodiacs with some of the new support. Yeah, there's this there's a card called Independent Nightingale where the combo is you open Instant Fusion and this. You go Instant Fusion, bring out the Nightingale, tribute it for the Tyrant Neptune, and you for basically a 2-card combo, because Tyrant Neptune is a reptile, you can search him with King of the Pharaoh Imps. You have a 6k beater unaffected by card effects that burns your opponent for 5,000 turn 1. Definitely not fair. Something we do not want to see in our game. So this is a preemptive hit, and I think it's a good one. Definitely something
very
that
similar to the hit we saw on Kaiser Coliseum last ban list.
And this happens sometimes, like the same thing with the Morphing Jar hits, where like Morphing Jars were hit right before Jackpot 7 came out, and there was a FTK with Jackpot 7, and there's an FTK with Jackpot 7, and the Morphing Jars. That's why they were banned right before Jackpot 7 came out. So this is the same thing. This doesn't happen a lot in the TCG, but it's something I'm glad they do. I'd rather have them take preemptive steps if, of course, something becomes a problem. And this was clearly one. Masterpiece is one thing, but this card was just nuts. It's basically like you have a kaiju or you auto-lose in the following turn. We only have one other banned card, which is Vanities Emptiness. I don't think anyone's surprised. I like Kirin. About time. Emptiness was like, I remember one match in my regional playing against Zoo, and the one game I took on him, I had Vanities up, and I summoned Nekoseka. And it's just like, what are you going to do against Paleos? And definitely a card that I don't think Sean, I think we both agree, not a surprise. About time. Card probably should have been hit a long time ago. So no one's surprised.
Because I just finally got one. Because I've been playing this past 3 formats without it. And now,
how do you think I feel? I bought a secret for like $15 not too long ago, and I've already had pet supers for ages. But
I got the super, and now it's unplayable.
Yeah, now it's unplayable. So that is what it is. Now we're getting down to the limits. Only 3 banned cards. We have Maxi placed to limited. This is not a surprising move, but definitely a head scratching move. I mean, the thing with Maxi is that it creates situations where, granted, you do have to think, but the problem with Maxi is it's a lot like it's a Saki card, because either A, your opponent gives you a ton of cards, or B, they kill you on the next turn. So either way, you're basically fucked with a lot of decks. Much like Upstart Goblin, I still think it's a main deck staple, but at the same time, am I going to play it in a lot of my decks now? Probably not. I've had secret maxis for ages, so like this doesn't bother me that much. I know that maxi is like a card. People were talking about this, so it's definitely something. What do you think, Sean?
I think it's going to see play in the side deck because a lot of people forget that Sangan is at 3 now, which I guess we'll get to later. But it can search maxi.
Yeah, you can still, like, it's not like Max C's. And Retaliating Sea is also a card, especially with Infernoids especially with Infernoids being a thing. I definitely think that while I don't know if Retaliating Sea is the answer, there are, because with Infernoids now, like, they don't have, Lawn Mowing doesn't special summon anything, but Retaliating Sea is a card, so you can access Max C in a decent amount. It's not like it's inaccessible, it's just you're not going to see it as much. But
the chances of opening it so your opponent doesn't know you got it in hand is going to be nuts.
Yeah, that's true.
Now, as soon as you search that maxi, they're going to be really careful, or they're going to try to bait it out.
Yeah, that's correct. So like I feel like it's a card that either it should be banned or it should be at 3. It's one of those cards where it's just like it's make Konami to. Then we're getting to some of the card erratas. Rescue Cat. I believe the errata is it's just been given a once per turn, and it's like I think it's the monsters. I think they're still destroyed during the end phase, so it's basically like Rescue Rabbit now. You can't loop it anymore, which is fine. I think if they're going to do erratas, I'm not a fan of them, but if they're going to do them, Rescue Cat, this is perfect, and it's especially with Mrs. Radiant being a card. I definitely could see Rescue Cat seeing a lot of play in Link format. It's a good card in Link format for sure. Yeah, Rescue Cat's like still
really good.
In Links, it's really, really good because you can get 2 beast monsters out of your deck. You've got instant Mrs. Radiant fodder. Definitely a card that I think I would pay attention to because I think it's pretty good under Link format for sure. It's a very good card still, I think.
Makes Crystal Beast a viable Link deck.
Right,
because
and then
summon 2 Crystal Beasts or however many, and it lets you summon. I haven't read the card in a long time. And then it's destroyed on end phase. You now have 2 Crystal Beasts in your spell and trap zone for free.
Yeah, it's a powerful card, definitely for sure. And the loops are gone, which was important. Speaking of the loops, we have Brianna coming back from Forbidden the Limited. Still a pretty powerful card. It's new errata, basically. You cannot bounce your own cards, which was one of the problems with Brionic, and it's once per turn. Again, if they're going to do erratas, this is the way to do them. Brionic is still a powerful card. Is it as good as Stardust Charge Warrior or Coral Dragon? Debatable, but it's definitely, I feel like if you're playing Mermails, this is probably a staple in your Mermail extra deck. Being able to bounce cards is always a little bit better than destroying anyways, so... You like Brionic with its new errata?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I feel like I don't know if it's going to get a spot in all my extra decks, but if you're playing something like Mermail, it's not bad at all.
Synchro deck, you're going to want to play it so you have recovery options later.
Yeah, one of the things I do like about it is it can target back row, so if your opponent has a bunch of traps, you can summon Brionic to bait them out. It's in that respect, I really like it because it can play around a lot of things. And so, yeah, pretty powerful. Brionic is up to 1. Brain Control is coming off the list. It's not very good with its errata. You can't grab extra deck monsters with it. You can only grab monsters that can be normal summoned or set. Which means no extra deck monsters. You can't grab Namis like BLS with it. You can't grab. Basically, it has to be able to be normal summoned or set. So I mean, why would you play this? This and Mind Control are both at 1. Why would you play Brain Control over Mind Control? I don't know. So definitely, not that relevant. Honestly, I think Brain Control coming to 1, it's not going to change too much. Future Fusion. Now this is an interesting one. It's coming off with its errata. So the way Future Fusion works now is it doesn't send the monsters until the following turn. So while I think Future Fusion isn't going to play in every deck, it's definitely something you would like to try because Future Fusion, while it can't send right away, which is what made it so broken, your opponent is going to have to answer it. If you're playing something like Infernoids, they're probably going to send their entire deck to the graveyard if you don't get rid of this on their turn. So it's one of the things I do like about it is I feel like it's still very playable. It's just, is it worth a lot of space? Who knows? Do you like Future Fusion with its new errata?
I think it hurts the power that it once had, which again, that's the point of the errata. But I think that you might see a couple nostalgia players try to come back and play Future Fusion Dragons.
Yeah, and people were talking about maybe trying it in DDDs. It's definitely something you would play in Infernoids, like no debating, because of what it does. You can basically mill your entire deck with a card. So like you're gonna play this Infernoids, like no debating. You're playing this Infernoids just because of what it does. And it's important to remember we are getting the new Predaplant engine in Maximum Crisis, which you can search Future Fusion with. So that's definitely something you need to think about for sure.
Definitely getting it.
Yeah, the Predaplant engine searches any card with Fusion in the name, so you can search this with the Darling Cobra. That's pretty nice.
Yeah, I knew that. I just didn't know when it was coming out.
Yeah, it's coming out Maximum Crisis. I think Satcham told me the other day.
More upset. My God.
The Imperial Order's coming off the list. This is the one I am just not a fan of. So the only change they made to Imperial Order is the standby phase payment is mandatory now, and that's it basically. It's you pay it. It has to be during either player's standby phase.
You have to pay it on both players' turns now.
Which the thing with Imperial Order is, would you play Order over Anti-Spell Fragrance against Pendulum decks? Debatable, but there's so many decks that get just shut down by this card, regardless of errata. And I think of interaction with DDDs, where if you have Siegfried online, you can turn off Order on your turn, and then it's back online on your opponent's turn. I just not a fan of this errata, and I feel like this pumps up Paleos even more. It gives them more to work with, which is not good at all. Now for the semi-limits, this is probably the ones that are the most interesting. We're getting Wisdom Eye Magician up to 2. I'm not surprised. I didn't honestly part of me I am actually surprised about Wisdom Eye because I did not see Konami bumping it up. But I'm not part of me says, well, Magicians are getting a whole new wave of support, so it's not surprising at all. But I don't Sean, did you see Wisdom Eye coming off the list at all?
I wasn't expecting anything from Pendulum Magicians except for the Kieran hit.
Yeah, I didn't. I honestly did not think Konami would bump Wisdom Eye up on the list at all. I feel like once it got hit to 1, it was never coming back. So it's definitely I'm definitely going to dust off Magicians and remake them because I feel like you run Wisdom Eye as like it's a Lone Fire Blossom for Pendulums. That's when I first read the card. That was my first come away. I didn't realize I knew what it did, but I was like, it's a Lone Fire Blossom for Pendulums. Being able to, that one extra Wisdom Eye helps the deck so much, and I feel like it's definitely a good. I'm glad it's coming up, but I don't know whether it's a good idea because with all the new support, it might be a bit much. But if the OCG is any indicator, the deck is not going to dominate the format even with all the new cards. And Zodiac Rapier has gone to 2. Now, this is not surprising. Honestly, like a lot of people were telling me that with Zodiacs, like Barrage and all these other cards but like hitting Rapier to 2 means that they can't as consistently do their herp derp combos. It's unlike the OCG where they limited it, but
it's bad.
The deck is still very playable. It's just a lot. It's not as herp derpy, I think, is the way I would explain it. Like, you can't as consistently make rank 4s. That Emerald combo is going to be a lot less consistent for you, I think, for sure.
Basically, what happened was we can still do our herp derp combos, as you call it, but we can't go as hard as we normally do. And now Zodiac's better as an engine than a standalone deck, because now with the lack of one rat, the Black Sheep combo is a little harder to pull off, but we still can. We can no longer Emerald Loop. So it's basically, you've got the rats there just to make a good score.
As your dogs interrupt us, but anyway, I get what you're saying. Yeah, definitely. It's. I remember at regionals, like that multiple Emerald Loop is just disgusting. It's watching a Zoo player play with themselves for 10 minutes brings back bad memories from playing against Quasar decks on Tepro. So definitely something that needed to happen.
Right.
Barrage is not
deck, I
on here.
respected. Zodiacs, I did not.
Yeah, Barrage is not on here. but I feel like with Zoo, like the traps are honestly what made the deck so powerful because they can set 5 really good trap cards. So interrupted Kaiju Slumber going to 2. Now we were talking about this in the chat before we came on, and one thing Moham said that I agree with was that he said that hitting Slumber to 2 basically means you have to run more Kaijus. You have to run more Kaijus for consistency's sake, which is not as consistent, which I think is the point of semi-limiting Slumber. What do you think about Slumber going to 2?
I'm happy it went to 2 because I thought it was going to 0. Because I'm not pissed at Kaijus. I mean, yeah, it keeps me from playing a lot of decks that I want to. But to 2 means that it's still alive and that Kaijus as an engine is okay. Or like as a sideboard.
Yeah, because it makes it slightly because the engine is not going to be quite as consistent, and the main thing is like the grave effect is also not going to be quite as consistent for decks like lawn mowing decks, because granted you're probably going to mill at least one when you're milling 20 something cards, but the main thing Slumber's grave effect, being able to search more Kaijus, is not going to be quite as consistent as those decks, because if you mill your Kaiju engine, they're dead in the graveyard. So I like the hit. I feel like it could have gone to 1, but I can live with it going to 2. So other than that, the only unlimited card is Sangan. As we mentioned earlier, Sangan going to 3 is interesting because hand traps I think are going to see, we're in the format we're going into, especially post Maximum Crisis, we're going to see a lot more hand traps. And guess what? Sangan searches a lot of these hand traps.
Searches almost all of them.
Yeah, searches almost all of them. So I'm kind of curious to see. The problem with Sangan is outside of a deck like Metal Foes, it's still really slow. Unless you're playing something Metal Foes, I don't know whether you would play. Yeah, you can go Tour Guide into Sangan, but that's not going to get you where you need to go nowadays. I mean
it's Metal Foes or Fire Kings if you want to pop it really fast at will.
Yeah, that's the main thing about Sangan, is like you need a way to actually pop it, get effect off quicker, because that's like the card is still slow, but I understand why they created it the way they did. You know, it's not as good with its errata, but overall, it's not a ton of changes for the long length we waited for this list. But I'm not totally unhappy with it. I feel like this is a typical April ban list. Like, they change a very few minute things, and then we get the bigger ban list later in the year. So I think this is a normal April list. You know, as long as we did wait for a ban list, this is what we should get in April. So overall, what do you think about the ban list? Do you like it? Is it good? Is it bad? Or what?
I like it. I am a little disappointed that after all this time, this all didn't happen, because like when I saw it earlier this morning, someone's like, "Hey, new ban list," and in my mind, I'm singing "For the First Time in Forever," and I see it, and I'm like, "Why did we all wait so long for this?"
Yeah, it definitely waiting a while for this was like, but the thing with this list is that this is a normal, like, as long as we waited, this is a normal April ban list. Like, this is what we get in April. We usually don't get we get like one ban list that nukes everything once a year usually. And this is a normal, like, this isn't like surprise me at all. But I'm pretty happy with this list. I feel like it's a compromise. It hits some of the key problems. It slows decks down a little bit, but my main thing is this deck doesn't do a lot about Paleos. Infernoids are still very good under this ban list. And Paleos are very, very good. If you do not have your Denko Sekkas, you better get them now, because they are not going to stay wherever they're at, because Denkos are Denko wins games against Paleo is definitely a card. If you do not have them, pick them up. But we're still going to see Zoo. I still think like Zoo is very, very playable, especially the Metal Foe version now that we have Bao Baboon. Zoo is very playable, especially the Metal Foe, and still it's not going to be as good, but I feel like this is sort of like with Pepe, where they're slowing the deck down a little bit so the other decks can kind of catch back up, and I think we're going to see a lot more Paleos. Paleos were one of the few decks that keep up with Zoo. We're going to see a lot more of them. We're going to see a lot more Infernoids, and I think DDDs are still going to get this. They're not going to be able to quite keep up. I still think there's too many bad matchups across. We're going to see more, and I think the biggest thing we're going to see is even more traps than we've already seen. So, like I said, Where do you think the format's going to move, Sean? So now that we have this new ban list.
Tier 1 is going to be Paleo and Infernoids, because not everyone's going to have that clutch spell trap movable to stop the future fusion. And then Paleos are Paleo. Tier 2 is probably, Tier 1.5 is probably going to be ABC because it didn't get hit, and their biggest enemies, which was Zoo and Vanities Emptiness, are now not going to be seen near as much. Tier 2 will be Metal Foes and DDDs, probably. And that is if people stop gearing their DDDs towards going first and start gearing towards an OTK variant.
Yeah, or they need to get just. My regional thing will be up later. Like DDDs in the current, and I feel like you have to keep doing this going forward. Is you need to build, in order for DDDs to keep up, they have to be built to grind. You have to be able to grind. You have to play through back row, and that's something that the deck doesn't do very well. But it's more than capable of doing when the right pilot. And even in 2017, as fast as this format is, a lot of decks cannot put OTK damage on you if you start looping life points off of Oracle. So I still feel like DDDs are going to be good. Like they're going to have a slightly higher chance. But the problem is, if Infernoids see more play, DDDs have bad matchups across the board. So this doesn't fix any of their problems. But Maxi going to 1 definitely helps the deck a lot, because that's one card that really just shits on the deck completely. So anyway, guys, it about comes to the end of the video. Let me guys think of the new ban list down in the comment section down below. Stay tuned. Later this week, I'll be uploading my regional recap from last weekend. It'll be up on Thursday, and later on this week, I'll be uploading a new magician list. It'll probably be on DevPro. So anyway, guys, as always, I thank you guys for watching. This is Orstorm signing out.
See ya.